My route into doing this job, I was brought up in London, hence the accent, South London, and originally I trained to be an electrical engineer. That didn't quite work out because I didn't have the attention span to do the academic work at college, and soon changed careers and went and worked for my dad, who owned his own plant hire company. And so building sites I thought was my future, with plant and hiring tools and so on and so forth. But I had an opportunity at the age of 19 to start my own business. A guy that used to rent plant off of me um, offered me the opportunity to be a 50% partner in his business that he was just starting up. And I was a bit cheekier then. And I managed to bring in, within about 4 months, the contract for the Greater London Council. So they couldn't hire anything in London unless they came through me. So at 19, I found myself with employees, I found myself with a yard, I found myself and I got carried away, but I found myself driving around a big Jag car, and it was just all too easy. But what happened for me was that led me down the route of, I had the money and I had the inclination to do whatever I wanted to do. And before I knew it, within 2 years, I'd slipped quite heavily into alcohol and drug addiction at that young age. And the next kind of 10 years really, getting up to the kind of behaviors that people do when they're trying to survive, and eventually trying to survive on the streets. And for me, I hit a point in my life where I thought, I just can't do this anymore. I mean, I knew I wasn't stupid. There was nothing like this in my family. I'm the youngest of four. Um, quite well-to-do family, but I couldn't believe that. And it was really funny because it coincided with Grange Hill and the Just Say No messages, and I'm thinking, oh no, someone's found out about me. So I was trying to be secretive about it, couldn't, when the addiction really took hold. But I did do something about it. So, but I had to reach that point in my own life where I thought, if you carry on doing this, you carry on going down this route, you're going to be dead, and I made that decision. I got into detox and then left detox in London and went into a treatment or rehab centre, they call them these days. And I stopped using. So I practiced abstinence on that day. And that was the 28th of May. And it was this May, it'd be 33 years ago. So I managed to stop when I was in my late 20s, 28. But then, after the lifestyle that I had lived, I knew I was always the entrepreneur, always come up with the ideas. But what I did was that I thought, can I go back into that work? And I didn't want to go back because it was too money orientated. And I knew that was a trigger for me. So somebody said to me one day, a really close friend said, how about doing some voluntary work? And my first response was, but you don't get paid for that, and but I did. I went and did some voluntary work in a residential charity unit that I actually went through myself. And I wanted to give something back. And when I did that voluntary work, the first time someone said to me, Ray, I really appreciate that, I realized that that was my vocation, because it wasn't about money. It was about life. It was about quality of life. It was about giving back. It was a different pathway that I knew that I had to follow. And I was quite good at what I did. So I trained as a counselor. I trained as, I got a full-time job in that, working in that field with others like me who are going through that. And unfortunately, there's thousands of people going through it now. But I got some understanding of addiction, and turned my own life experience into a plus rather than a minus. Um, and rather than deny it ever happened, I embraced it. I accepted it. It was a period of my life, but I learned a lot. But I built a career on the back of it, and I've been working in the industry, as I say, for about 30, 31 years in all sorts, and I've been really lucky and used those entrepreneurial skills within some of the charities that I've worked for. CGL being one, I joined them when there was 12 of us. Turnover probably about £340,000 a year. By the time I left 10 years or 12 years later, they were turning over 60 million, 2,500 staff, and went on to today, they still exist and they're the biggest provider of treatment and support services in Europe. So turnover 220 million, well over 5,000 staff. So I was part of that real kind of success story, I guess. Yeah, so that's where I come from. And that's really how I've grown up in this sector, in the third sector, charity sector. I've always done that. And yeah, following CGL, I started my own, founded an organisation called Emerging Futures after a period of time where I was doing training and consultancy, which I love doing training, working with, frontline workers and stuff. And yeah, after 10 years, I've got this kind of track record of building something up and then getting bored and then moving on. So Emerging Futures, I did 10 years. I left them in really good health, 11 million pound turnover, and they had 270 staff. And this is the bit I'm proud of, is that a good 75% of them were people that, like me, had lived experience and had come through to become professionals and train and get the qualifications and so on. So, and then I decided I was going to take it a bit easier, but that never kind of worked out that way. And I joined Paul and Kev, middle of last year, 2024, to start to think about and vision, share a vision of like how we could take supporting lives and in particular charter recovery housing, to try and support people and give them a way out of homelessness and drug addiction and alcohol addiction, mental health, all the rest of it are all quite mixed. They call them these days multiple disadvantages. So you don't often get just one problem pop up. It's probably a few problems. So yeah, and that's the story really of how I've got where I am now. I think in homelessness, one thing that my colleague said to me, if somebody is homeless, has any mediation work been done with the family? Because I think a big percentage of people, with the right mediation with family, you could get people back into their own family home with the right support networks. And I don't think that's explored enough, because there might be pride going on for someone, who might be saying, they don't want to see me. I'm too proud to go back there and tell them what state I'm in and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, so there's them kind of barriers as well that you got to deal with. So it's a complex thing. I think if they're a supportive family, I think, it's a good thing. But I'd rather look at it as the broader support networks and connections. It needs to be, it is an important element of it. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think we need to, where we work with people, it's about getting them to connect with each other, or, people that have lived the same sort